Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I have a ScanNCut Canvas Workspace tutorial for you. I haven't done one in a while. I was experiencing some technical difficulties with some software, but I think, fingers crossed, that those are all ironed out now. So today I have this for you. It is intended as an invitation to a Halloween party. And I created it in Canvas Workspace and then cut it out on my ScanNCut machine. And there doesn't seem anything out of the ordinary here, does there? You're probably thinking, oh, well, you probably got all that from Canvas Workspace's free projects that Brother provides to their Canvas customers. And you'd be right, I did. However, there's a bit of a twist. And if you'd like to find out what that twist is, then stick with me and I'll show you what I did. I've opened Brother Canvas Workspace and I'm using the download version for my laptop. And my goal today is to take a project that is provided by Brother as part of their Canvas projects that you see here. These are all free projects that Brother provides for the Canvas users. And I'm going to turn it into something that it wasn't really originally intended for. So let me explain. As you see, I've got some Halloween projects here. This is actually what comes up on the screen when I open my Canvas Workspace. Now this is September of 2021 when I'm filming this. So if you're watching this 5-6 months from now, or a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, this might not be what comes onto your screen. So in order to use the same projects that I'm going to be using today, then you would need to do a search, and there is a search engine here that you can look for those files. And the ones that I'm going to be using are the Hanging Halloween Ornament and the Halloween Photo Props. The main one is going to be this. As you can see here, this is a project that consists of 3 mats. They've already been set out to accommodate whatever sort of materials you're going to be using for the project. So it could be card or paper, it could be even fabric, so anything. So you'll see here we've got A, which is the main part of the ornament that you see in this here. And if you look at that mat, you'll see that it nearly encompasses that entire 12 by 12 mat, which is not going to fit my purposes, because my intention is to take what you see here, but turn it into a party invite in the form of a 5 by 7 card. And it is going to be done, and I'm going to show you how. Now, for this particular project, you would have 2 of these mats that you would download. You would cut one in the black cardstock, as you see here. Then you would do another also in the black cardstock, but reverse it. So you would actually flip it so that your letters are mirrored. So when you take them and cut them out and put them together, then you would take them and entrap this piece here, where you see the blue and the orange. That is kind of like a mask that fits in between those 2 pieces. So what you see here is a piece that has been painted or colored. But you could use cardstock in place of trying to paint or use markers, anything like that. But the idea is to have that in between those two, so it's completely enclosed. Also, you have the spider, and even though you see two spiders here, it is really only one, because you see here in the photo, that spider is being suspended on a string, and that's just some black string that's being wrapped around the ornament here, and then the two spiders are the string is inside of those two spiders. So you just fold them up. You would then put your string in between, and then the body of the spider would hold that string in place. You'll see here too that you have your instructions, what Brother refers to as recipes, as well as a YouTube video that you can watch and see how the project is put together. But as I said, we're not going to use it as an ornament. We're going to use this as elements for a card. The first thing I want to do is to bring these onto the canvas workspace mat that we are going to be working off of, or the artboard as it's referred to. So I want to bring each of these mats onto the mat that I've got in the background here. And I'm going to click on A. And if you'll watch, you'll see that it's flickered. And when it did that, what it's done is place it on that mat. And as you can see, it does nearly fill that entire mat. Then we have the second part. And then finally, mat C, which is the spider. And it is, as you can see, two spiders, but they've been welded together so that you can just fold that in half and put your string in between. Now there is one other thing that I want, and that is back on this page, and that is in the Halloween photo props. I want the bat, but as you can see, the mat that I want also has a cat mask, and I don't have any choice but to bring both of those things into my mat here. But no worries, we can always delete the cat mask without any problem. So that's all I need from the canvas projects, and I can close that down now. So let's see what we've got here. We've got our bat, we've got our spiders, and I'm going to move those out of the way right now because I'm not going to do anything with those at the moment. The cat mask, I'm going to delete from the mat, and then I'm left with these two pieces. I'm going to go ahead and turn that into an orange fill, and I'm going to put it behind. And the reason it's on top is when you bring shapes into your workspace, as you bring them in, Brother stacks them up one on top of the other. So the Happy Halloween was first, so that now is at the bottom, and then this came in, so it is on top, and we'll see also the spiders then would be the very top. So we can either, let's move that out of the way again, we can either send this to the back, or we can click on the Happy Halloween and bring it to the front. It makes no difference. So we'll just choose one of those. And as you can see, it's designed to fit exactly behind that cutout. And in this case, we're not making that second cutout to go onto the back. We're just going to deal with these two. But you can also see that that's a little big for a 5x7 card. So I'm going to have to reduce that size. And what I want to do is to make sure that I resize them at the same time. The easiest way to do that then is to select the items that I want to resize, which are these two here, and I'm going to group them, because when I group them, then I don't have to worry about, maybe one of them coming unattached, and then when I resize them, maybe they're not in the same proportion anymore. So this way I know I've got everything together, and when I resize it, it's going to resize the entire piece now. So there are 3 different ways that I could resize this. Now, first of all, I've got to know, well, what is the goal here? And the goal is to get it onto a 5x7 card. And my 5x7 card is the base. I'm also going to have a mat. And that mat is going to be 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. So it's a little bit smaller than the base. And then the top part of the card, I guess you could call it the topper, or the background, is going to be 6 1/2 by 4 1/2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring on a square here. I'm going to turn it from a square into a rectangle. Now, maintain aspect ratio is not clicked, so therefore I know I can change the width and the height independent of each other. So I can go in here and I can say, okay, I need 4 1/2 for the width and 6 1/2 for the height. So that is my goal, to get my cutout here to fit onto this piece that we have here. So all I'm doing here is just using this as a tool to determine what my card is going to finally look like when I cut it out. So I'm going to give it a little bit of color in the background there. And I'm going to send it to the back. So back to resizing this. If I know already the percentage of the scale, essentially, of what I want to bring this image down, I could do that by using the resize by scale. So it could be, I want to reduce it by 70% or 60% or 40%, whatever. But I'm not going to be bothered with that math right now. So I'm going to bypass that one for now. And then the other 2 options are, one, to just simply place my cursor on one of those corner pieces there, and we can just pull it in and bring it to the size that we think we would like. Okay, I could do that. Or I could use my width and height here, where I could put in, let's say I want it about 4 1/4. I want to be sure that my aspect ratio, though, is on first. Don't want to change that until I do that. So maintain aspect ratio. So I'm going to change the width to 4 1/4, and at the same time it's going to change the height to 4.27. So let's see if this looks like it's going to fit onto this card. And it's not too bad. The other thing I want to do though is to rotate this so that when I cut this out and I put it on my card base, I want the Happy Halloween to be more in line like that, so I can see that it does still fit, and it fits pretty well. I'm pretty happy with that. Now, it's not going to matter that I've rotated it, and I don't even have to cut it out rotated. I could cut this out flipped completely, you know, on its head like so, because the only thing that matters is after it's cut out, I'll place it on my card base. But this is just, as I said, a tool so that I can decide on what my card is going to look like. So I've got that there. I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to bring in some other pieces now, and that is, first of all, we'll bring the bat over. Let's grab that. And we're going to reduce that in size as well. And I think I want it up here. And when I put it on my cardstock, I'm going to make sure that it's tilted like that. So I'm going to just have it a little bit smaller, not a whole lot. Something like that, that's fine. Then I'll get my spider. And that I'm going to actually put here on the bottom down here. But first, I've got some work to do for this, because as you see, there are two spiders there. I'm just going to move this out of the way for now. So I've got these two spiders that are welded together, but I only need one. So I need to separate these somehow. So we'd think that looking at that, well, I could try going down to process overlap and divide. But as you see, nothing changed. No effect whatsoever. How about remove the overlap then? Nothing again. Right, let's try subtract. Again, nothing. So what we're left with is the fact that we're going to have to manually remove one of those spiders. And this is how we do it. We're going to go and find a shape, and I think I'm going to use a square, but all I need to do is to be sure that it's going to cover this spider here that I want to remove. So I'll go over and grab a square. As you see, it always comes in at the default size, so it's more than I need, but I just need to be sure that is all covered. And actually I'm going to color it so you can see what's happening. I'm also going to take out the line color, because then I can see exactly where that cut line is going to be. So come in here and we can see that if we bring this about there, that should be pretty good. And if I come back out, you'll see that is now at the front. The spider is actually behind. It's the layer behind. So highlight both of those. Then come to the process overlap and choose subtract. And this is what's going to happen. It's cut out that box and that spider and left us with this. Now I'm going to show you something else that I want to do. And that is, I'm going to go into the nodes. Now I do that by just clicking on there. And you'll see here I've got hide control points ticked off. But if I take that off, you'll see I see all of the points. Because when something is drawn either digitally or even by hand, as you move the pen along, then those nodes are going to be created. And sometimes there are ones that go a little bit astray, or maybe they don't close the whole line up, and you can actually overcome some of the faults by going into the nodes and changing the actual shape. Or you might want to do it on purpose, like I'm going to do right now. So what I'm going to do is I want to change the shape of these legs here so that it more closely resembles the ones that are above it there. Because that is a result of where we had to cut this in two because we had that join there. So if I go onto nodes, and I see here that I can delete points. I could also add points, but I can delete them. So I'm going to have a little play, and then if I choose something and I don't like the look of it, all I have to do is use my undo button, and then that will take us back, and we can go back in and play a little more. And nodes is something that perhaps we could look into a little more in depth in future. I'm even learning a lot about nodes myself right now. I am by no means an expert, but I do appreciate the power, really, of being able to go into the node mode and actually change shapes or fix flaws. So let's try and see if we can reshape this a bit. So I'm going to start over here. And when I click on one of these little nodes, you'll see that it becomes almost an aqua color, like that. Go in a little bit closer, we can see. Then, when I go here and delete, depending on how this is being drawn, I might go in there. No, I don't like that. Let's try this over here. Nothing yet. And no. We'll try this. Ah, that looks better. That's the sort of shape I'm looking for. Because if I come out of this a little bit, you'll see that it's more this sort of shape. So let's go over here and see if we can do that on this side. So we'll look at taking some of those nodes out. That's not going to work. So let's go back in. Take that one. Ah, there we go. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to click off of those nodes, and that is what I'm left with. So that is how you can change a shape using the node function. So let's zoom out of this again, and we're going to resize our spider and bring him in here onto the card, and I think someplace down here on the bottom would be good. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger than that. So there we are. Now, as you know, in the original, the ornament, we had this spider suspended by a black string that was wrapped around the ornament up here and then attached to the spider. I have no intention of gluing or even looking for black string to then glue onto the front of my card, so I'm going to make my own. But we need to be mindful that in order to weld that string onto this spider, we have to have an object that has a closed path, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. If you take something like this, this is the path tool, so I can draw what looks like a line. Okay, I'll bring my spider over and select both of them and go to weld and see what happens. I get an error message, and the error message tells me that it cannot weld this object because there is either an open path or a self-intersecting path. That means there is an open path here because this is just a path. It's just a to B sort of thing. So if I were to click on the node, you'll see here that it has an open outline. It needs to be closed. So you would have to close it, but the problem is it still doesn't want to weld this. As you can see, it just takes it and eliminates it altogether. Even if I bring the spider to the front, the same thing is going to happen. So there is a way around that, and that is to make our own string, our own closed path object, and I'm going to use a square to do that. What I'll do is I'm going to bring it in like so and make that a very skinny little piece. Like that. I'm going to make sure that my maintain aspect ratio is off. I'll fill it with some color, and I'll make the line transparent as well. And just to show you this is going to work, if I highlight those now and go to weld, it indeed has welded that as one complete shape. So I'm going to undo that for now, because this is going to be attached like in the original project, somewhere along this little piece here, this little hook. I think they actually wrapped it around this little hole here, but I don't have to do that. I can just have it go to the the back of that. And then there's where I want it. Okay, now I can bring it down, and I'll resize this as well. Doesn't need to be that long. Let's go find the spider. And I'm going to place it down here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually change this from a straight up and down piece to down here and resize that. I'm going to have another piece that is welded to the bottom of that, comes around and then comes down into the spider. So I'll just duplicate that. In fact, I'll duplicate it twice, and I'll change the size of that. So we'll make that shorter. Oops. Let's go in, zoom in on that, and we'll take this piece and I'm going to rotate it and make sure that it's going to overlap that piece there so that it can be welded together. I'm still going to shorten that just a little bit. And then I'm going to bring this piece in. Which is going to go behind our spider there. It doesn't need to be that long. A lot shorter than that. That's going to go behind there. So then I can start to move this so that getting something that looks more like that. So I'll just shorten this a tiny bit. Come in here and move that in position, and then come down here. Do the same there. And now I'm going to zoom back out, and I think it's going to be all right to weld now, but we'll soon find out. But before I do that, I'm going to ungroup this so that I'm only dealing with what I want to weld together. So I don't need that right now. I don't need the bat, and I don't need this. This is all I'm concerned about. Is that. So if I've highlighted everything, when I go to the process overlap, I should be able to weld it together. And if I'm successful, that's going to turn into one single blue box or blue outline on the box, and it has. So now that is one shape, and that will cut out as one piece on my machine. So let's bring our pieces back in here, so we know what we're working with. We've got a little bat over here. We can even bring this in now, so we get an idea what things are going to look like. And now I'm going to go into shapes. This time I'll select words, because there is a word in here that is already welded together that I want to use for this, and that is party. So I can bring it into the mat. And now I'll resize this. I want that at the bottom down here. I think something like that would do. I'm also going to fill it with some color. I'll choose orange because I might want to actually cut that out of orange. So I want to see what is that going to look like. But I also want a mat behind it to help it pop up off that page. So to do that, I need to come over to Edit, go down to the very bottom where you see Offset, and click on Offset. I want an outward offset line, and I do like the 0.04 spacing for this particular word. And also I'm going to keep this option ticked off here to create an offset line that is only around the outer edge, as you can see here in this example that they've got here. If I were to take that off, it's also going to look for any other shapes and create an offset line around them. I'll show you how that would look here. So if I zoom in now, you'll see not only did it go around the outside, which is what I want, but also all these other little bits, and I don't want that. So I'll undo that, go back and select it again, go to offset and make sure that I have that option selected. And now I have a perfect mat that will go behind that word. But at the moment, it is actually at the front. I'm going to color it black so I can see what that's going to look like. And then I can send it backward behind there. So there we have our party. Now there's one other thing I want to do before I finish up with this. I'm going to go over into shapes, and I'll go down here where we've got all these various miscellaneous sort of shapes, and I'm going to select this one. I'm going to bring that down in size, because this is something I'm going to use with my spider. So I'm going to, first of all, reduce it significantly, and also start to change the shape of it. I can play around with that just a bit, and I'll keep an eye on what the size is. It's not too bad. And I'm going to fill that with yellow. Can you tell what it is yet? I'll bring it in here and make little eyes for our spider. It's going to be very small, so if I don't lose it on the mat, it should be quite effective. So bring that in. And I want to duplicate that. I'm going to make sure they're aligned at the top. Let's group them together and take a look at that. I'm going to ungroup it so I can move that a little closer. Go back in and align it again. Group it. And then I can zoom out and take a look. I think that's pretty cool. I'm happy with that. So there we have our spider with the eyes that shine in the dark on Halloween. So that is everything I'm going to need for my party invite. Did you see? What once started out as an ornament and a photo prop is now a 5x7 card. So the only thing left to do is to save this, and I'll save it as it is like that. And we'll call this Halloween invite. Oops. Halloween party invite. And that will save it as a Canvas working file. And when we send it to the machine, when we export it, then it will turn it into a Brother FCM file, the proprietary file name for all the Brother files. So when I send this to my machine, first of all, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that because I only needed that while I was setting this all up. I've got my pieces that I'm going to cut in black cardstock. I just sort of arrange those on the mat right now because I don't know what sort of paper I've got available, the sizes. So once I get it onto the machine, I'll be able to move all those bits and pieces around. But this just helps me to spread things out a bit and make it easier to work with. So I need to be sure that I'm not beyond that red line there in order to export it, because if I have something like that, if I try then to transfer it or export it, I can't, because some of the objects have gone beyond that red dash line. So we've got to be sure that we've placed everything inside. We can always move it again when we put it on our actual mat. And now we can export it. And I have these choices. I could export it and put it in a file somewhere. I could put it on my laptop. I could put it on a tablet. I could put it on a USB stick, anything like that. Or I could simply transfer it via the internet directly to my machine. And if you don't have a Wi-Fi machine, you won't even have this option. So don't worry about that. Or if you have a machine that has the ability to be connected with a USB cable, you could choose that as well. So I'm going to use the internet option. So I'll click here. It tells me that my machine is ready to transfer it. So it's going to go up through the cloud and back down to my machine and wait for me to come and retrieve it. And that is all we need to do. So now we'll go make a card, a party invite to a Halloween party. And there is our happy Halloween. And a little spider. Let's clean this up. And I have the other pieces already cut out as well, so I'm ready to put the card together. Already cut and scored my card base 5 by 7. So what I did is cut it at 10 by 7 and then scored it at the 5-inch mark. And I've also prepared a mat. It's going to go around the outside like that. And again, I've just taken the inside of it out. And that saves me a bit on card. I can use the inside of that for something else. And it also helps to cut down on the bulk or the weight of the card. This piece now that has been cut at 6.5 by 4.5, and that is where we're going to start building our card. So we'll start bringing in the pieces. I've got my Halloween, I've got party, and I have the piece that's going to go behind the Halloween. This piece here is going to go there. I also have my little bat. It's going to go up here. And the mat for the party, so that is going to go there like that. So I'm going to glue that in place.
from ornament to party invitation. Not bad. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on the Brother ScanNCut Canvas workspace and how you can take something that was made for one purpose and turn it into something that suits you. It was a lot of fun to make. I learned things along the way, and I hope you did too. If you're already subscribed to my channel, thank you so much. And if you're not, then consider subscribing today. I hope you'll share this with your friends, especially if they are the owner of a ScanNCut, or perhaps they are considering making that purchase. I will try to load more of these tutorials in the future. I've had a few technical problems, but I think some of those are now sorted out, so I can go forward with those tutorials now. Until I see you again, please stay safe and crafty hugs. Bye.